Very good morning and on Global TV this morning. Very glad to have you join us today on the program. Don't forget that this program runs every Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 11:55 or say 12 p.m. I am Hime and to join me later today will be Joy as Sonia, and we'll be having a discussion on what is actually happening in Nigeria as it has to do with elections and everything that has to do with electioneering. But just before we take you on that, let us move over straight up to African News Update, where we begin today in Nigeria, where the government has summoned South Africa's acting High Commissioner over rising anti-immigrant violence. Authorities say they are deeply concerned about the recent killings of foreign nationals, including at least 2 Nigerians, as well as attacks on businesses owned by African migrants. The move comes as tensions escalate, with reports that over 100 Nigerians in South Africa have applied for voluntary evacuation, while South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has condemned the attacks. Concerns persist over the harassment by anti-immigrant groups, accusing of targeting foreigners in public spaces. Building on that development, Nigeria is now planning to repatriate its citizens willing to return home voluntarily. Foreign Minister Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu says at least 130 Nigerians have already registered for evacuation, with the number expected to increase as fears persist. She stressed that President Bola Tinubu is prioritizing the safety of citizens, condemning the violence, and calling for justice over reported killings involving security personnel. Authorities say arrangements are underway to organize voluntary return flights for affected Nigerians. Now, from diplomatic tensions to regional security, Mali has launched an investigation into the coordinated April 25th attacks that targeted military sites and senior officials. Early findings suggest that dismissed soldiers and certain political actors have been involved in planning the assault. Authorities say several suspects have been arrested, while others remain at large. The probe follows one of the country's most significant security breaches in recent years, raising fresh concerns about internal threats within the military and the political system. As security concerns unfold, attention turns to migration and refugee movements in East Africa. Tanzania has shut down the Nduta refugee camp, repatriating thousands of Burundians under an agreement with their home government. The move is part of a wider plan to return up to 100,000 refugees. However, rights groups allege that many of the returns were forced, citing intimidation and restricted access to aid. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has reiterated that all repatriation efforts must be voluntary, safe, and dignified. Now, turning to health development, there is a renewed hope in Cameroon as the rollout of a malaria vaccine begins to show positive results. Mothers report fewer infections among vaccinated children, offering a breakthrough in the fight against one of the country's deadliest diseases. Health experts say the vaccine significantly reduces severe cases when administered properly, and according to the World Health Organization, children under 5 account for the majority of malaria-related deaths, making this intervention especially critical. And return in Southern Africa, relations between Zambia and the United States have come under strain after a major health aid deal over $1 billion failed to be signed before a key deadline. The agreement was expected to fund programs tackling HIV, malaria, and maternal health. US officials have expressed frustration over delays, while Zambia says discussions are ongoing and should follow diplomatic procedures. Despite the setbacks, Washington have pledged to continue essential health support through future long-term assistance, which may depend on reforms. Now shifting focus to global diplomacy, Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te has visited Eswatini to reinforce ties with one of its few remaining allies. The visit included the signing of cooperation agreements and renewed commitments to diplomatic relations. Eswatini's King Motsoaledi III reaffirmed his country's support for Taiwan's participation in global affairs despite mounting pressure from China. The visit underscores ongoing geopolitical competition over diplomatic recognition. And lastly, in North Africa, Morocco's King Mohammed VI has appointed his son, Crown Prince Moulay El Hassan, to a senior coordinating role with the armed forces. The move places the 22-year-old at the center of military operations and strategic planning. Analysts say the appointment is part of a preparation for future leadership, mirroring the king's own path to power. It also signals continuity within Morocco's institution as the crown prince takes on greater national responsibilities. And there has been African News Update on Razep Africa. We'll go on a break, and when we return, we'll have a very wonderful discussion as we have two guests in the studio this morning, and you'll be joined by Joy Asoye, PhD. Good morning.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asoye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.
Hello there, many thanks for joining us. Back here in Nigeria has suggested that Peter Obi and Rabiu Kwankwaso have exited the African Democratic Congress, of course triggering fresh debate about the future of opposition politics ahead of 2027. But what makes this moment particularly significant is not just the defection, but the reasoning behind it all. We have seen so many people in deep reflective message. Peter Obi described Nigeria's political environment as increasingly toxic, a system where institutions meant to protect citizens instead create pressure, where internal crises, legal battles, and external interference undermine genuine political engagement. He spoke about a culture where humility is mistaken for weakness, where integrity is questioned rather, and where even within political platforms, sincere efforts are often met with suspicion, division, and hostility. Importantly, he also clarified that his exit from the ADC was not due to personal conflict with leaders like David Mark or Atiku Abubakar, but rather due to systemic issues echoing similar challenges he previously encountered with the Labour Party. So this raises critical questions. Is this simply another political defection or a deeper indictment of Nigeria's political systems? Are opposition parties failing because of individual or self, or because of entrenched structural dysfunctionality? And if credible actors continue to exit political platforms citing the same problem, what does that mean for democratic competition? Joining us to unpack all of this is Dr. Deji Mike Adebayo, political analyst and a member of the All Progressive Congress. We will be joined later by an ADC chieftain, Honorable Kalgo Idris, as well, to unpack all of this. But first of all, let's get to Dr. Deji. Doctor, so good to have you join us this beautiful morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Right. Were you surprised at that announcement by Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023?
Well, so me as an analyst, I wouldn't tell you I was surprised. I think from the way I analyze politics, I saw it coming.
You did see it coming?
I saw it coming. I actually had a conversation with some of my political friends about a month ago. And from everything I've seen, as a dead, I felt, of course, the rumbles going around
the ADC at the time.
ADC and the OB that we know, he would have wanted to be caught unarrest. He would have also calculated to move elsewhere. And as at then, I would likely tell you, I was confident it was going to be to NDC rather.
NDC,
yeah.
Yes.
Going by the way the party has built itself, it's the youngest party, and their whole political environment was still young and open to be flocked. So I just concluded in my mind. And when this thing happened, my friends were like, my colleagues were like, wow, how did I know? Politics
but I'm surprised you say that you saw it coming, because a lot of us, when we heard that he was those engagements, I mean, before the convention, before all of that, it seemed like the next best thing for Peter Obi. And for some of us who saw those litigations, we thought it was not rocket science, that these leaders did not necessarily have to come into the ADC and take over the entire leadership structure of the ADC, which was the beginning of the many issues that they have. Bearing in mind that ADC already had its own internal riflings as well. And it almost as if it put aside the structure of the ADC and wanted to take over. Now there's this move to the NDC, which is a lot of people have commended. But in your words, what is in it for a Peter Obi who must take charge, or seemingly must take charge, or nothing?
What is in it for him? Well, typically, I personally like Obi as a person. Let's not get it wrong, regardless of party affiliation, right? But from what I have seen over the years of his own person, he likes to go where it comes easy to him. With due respect to him, if you see Labour Party, they were not ready they didn't really have strong contenders for the presidential primaries. He moved in there. And when I saw the NDC, I knew he was going to, I felt, let me not just say, I'm not so perfect, but I felt he was going to go in there. Because if you look at the ADC, even if ADC was together, as they should be, we have the likes of Atiku there. We have the likes of El-Rufai and all of that. And these are going to be strong contenders against Obi for the ticket of the presidency. And I knew he wouldn't want to stay there until he gets knocked out. If you check very well, when we were in the PDP together, why he left was because he knew the primaries was going to be tough. So he didn't want to be left out again. And he moved. So, but in the NDC, I think I followed the growth and emergence of the party closely, actually. And I think he has a chance there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what does it say about a leader who leaves the kitchen when the heat is
exactly. I feel a bit disappointed. You know why? Because if he will be moving from one party to the other when there's a bit of heat, then imagine what it means to lead over 200
a complex country.
Yeah, because
like
when the pressure
Nigeria
comes, what happens? You know?
Right.
When the pressure comes, because leadership is not something. It's not for the weak. You have to be strong and daunting. If you look very well, I'm not going to be calling names. I've been checking the political structure of our country and our presidents. If you look very well, presidents that are damning, they make decisive decisions and they act on it. They're the ones that seem to be able to keep us together. Right from the time of the military, during the military era till now. Look at Obasanjo, the way he handled the country. We are put together. But if we have someone that at the slightest shake you move, then how do we rely on you?
Would you call this the slightest shake? Because the ADC were confronted with very existential issues, which would have affected his contesting the presidential elections come 2027. However, there was also room for reconciliation. But when you look at everything that had happened so far, do you think it was actually beyond him? Starting from Labour Party move, starting from the PDP move to APGA. Okay, now you're taking me down it too long a journey. Okay. No, but let's start from the 2023 when he had to leave the PDP. He had campaigned with Alhaji Atiku Abubakar as a very viable as a viable contender, and it was a wonderful synergy right there. But when you look at the 2023 move and to this day where it's been back and forth, not to mention that he may not have openly joined the SDP, but there were talks and there were engagements before they ended up with the ADC. What does it tell about his person?
I think we've said about that already, because like I said, it's not telling good of him, his personality. It feels like a weakness to me. In as much as moving from one party to another is not really an issue, but the question is why. I am of the opinion there's virtually no politician, maybe except Wike, that has not migrated from one. I'm talking of major leaders, major players now, that has not migrated from one political party to the other. Even recently, we had Governor of Bauchi State too. Has moved, is about moving to another party. That is the name of the party. You know? So it's okay for politicians to move, but what we should always question is the reason. Is it personal reasons? Is it for a bigger, as a collective reasons? Because people keep saying politics is interest, and I keep telling them, yes, it should be interest, but what kind of is it personal interest or collective interest for the general populace, your followership, your supporters? You know, if it's for personal reasons, then it begs the question, like, then are you sure you really want to be a leader? But if you're doing it for the sake of your followership, then you're good to go.
So Obi, for instance, insists that it was not personal. He even reaffirmed respect for leaders like Atiku and David Mark, and it's not about those individuals. But what exactly would you think, when you break it down to, it really was? Because the biggest issues that Nigerians raised was when you put beside Atiku Abubakar and Obi, somebody has to compromise for the other, and the two of them do not look like they would like to compromise. While he did not mention it and acted as if it wasn't an issue, do you think that's what made him leave fundamentally?
Like I said before, once he sees strong contender in the party, he goes to the weaker party. Without some no mind saying, well, at least check the antecedents of what has happened from the PDP to Labour Party to ADC and NDC today. He has always looked at, I don't know who his consultants are, who are his advisors. He will always say, eventually he will just look at the structure. From the moment I saw Atiku in the party, I knew that Obi is preparing his exit. Yes, but he was definitely calculating, and SDP they had talks with SDP, of course. But I think the last time one aspirant had to step down for presidential election.
Right.
Yeah, so it would be difficult for them to now probably ask guys, is a Yoruba guy too? Yes, and I think he also looked at as another place where the president we want to shake him again, and he doesn't like being shaken at that level. Right. Maybe in the field because he has followership on the field, but at party level we don't want that. So he will be smart enough to not go to SDP, and I think that was why he has come to the NDC. NDC is young, and of course they will embrace him because every politician, every political party needs that followership, which he has. So,
but is he being complacent at this moment? Because I know a lot of people who joined him to the ADC, contested under the ADC, have already started rooting or getting their foot under the ADC. Do you think with all the move, he would not lose people, lose
followership? He will lose. Now, even in business, when you move from one location to another, you will lose. Politics. And I've already seen, I have a lot of my friends from different parts of the country that are in the ADC and they are contesting. And one guy he was contesting for House of Rep in one of the northern states. And he said it's not moving, that the parties began, of course it's politics, people will say this. But now, talking of him being complacent, I think so, because it's looking at his own personal ambition and forgetting about those. Okay, let's look at FCT, for example. When he was in the Labour Party, we have the present House of Rep member, Honorable Chinedu Obika. Then we have Kingibe. Now he has left the Labour Party and moved to the ADC. Iriti went with him. Chinedu moved to APC. And right now he has also left Iriti in the ADC and moved to NDC. How do you follow that kind of leader as a politician? Maybe for his supporters, they don't mind, they can simply switch. For those that believe in him, they can simply switch. But the political followers, the big players, they are moving around with him. They won't just find it easy to
just switch.
It's going to be difficult. So I think he has to watch that. If I'm to advise him, he has to watch that and try to be as stable as possible. Let him come up with an ideology because it's affecting his political career.
But is it true? Are we there yet? Because sometimes you listen to people tell you things like, "Oh, we may not be in that political party, but we will vote our choice." Is that what he's counting on? That when it comes to presidency, he would be voted in irrespective of where he has left followers? Okay, but then again, since you do not want to respond to that, we have this movement. This constant movement has exposed once again the weak a political institution. Okay. What does it say for moving forward? Because we cannot repeat the same thing year in, year out. This is 2026, and we are still having this mass defection now in spite of the Electoral Act review that happened. So what's your thoughts on how we would ensure that we have stability in our political space where politicians are more for the country's growth and not necessarily personal interest that now instigates you moving from one place to the other? Because it reflects how we think of leadership. If I don't get it, nobody, then I leave. But that shouldn't be how it should be coined. There are countries in the world that have 3-4 political parties, and you already know the contenders, and immediately doesn't work. You admit your failure, and that's it. But here we see litigations, we see internal wranglings, and all of that.
Well, if you ask me, Nigerian democracy is still quite young. That's not as ripe, and a lot of adjustment the electoral acts keep being adjusted and readjusted. But we can't get it right until you keep testing the waters. But let's not make the mistake of ever testing with double A.
Exactly.
But now talking of the moving, if you say you spoke about the new act and INEC came up with a new ideology, like, okay, all parties at so time bring your register
and that's it.
And that is it. So that's why you're seeing the wrangling. You see, unlike before, people will still do the wait for primary after primary, they don't get it.
And in fact, we had that very ridiculous concept called placeholding.
Yes, do you understand? So, and it has always created that confusion for the country as a whole, then INEC, then parties. You know, you see someone say, "I'm just a place." They'll say, "You're just a placeholder." As in, you are holding a party ticket to go on for an election. Someone suddenly comes to tell you you're a placeholder, they're replacing you, and there's nothing you can say. You can't go to court. But when you go to court, the court will say this is party level of politics.
Yeah,
it's internal party issues. So it's funny. So INEC has, if you ask me, INEC has done good by coming up with this idea. So by the time primaries are done, it's done. We move on to that. And politics has really distracted the country a lot, if we will be truthful. Because after elections, you see party issues first, then you now see inter-party issues.
And
you know?
before governance.
Do you understand? So it's really slowing things generally. So it's a new development, and I think we're still going, and eventually we'll get it right.
Okay, so it's time to go for a short break. This is still Razep Africa here on Global Television, where we are discussing Obi Kwankwaso quitting the ADC and joining the NDC. What does it say about our political space and the battle towards 2027? We'll be back after this short break, hopefully getting Honorable Kalgo Idris to join the conversation. We'll be back shortly.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.
Welcome back from that short break. Like I told you, we'll be joined by Honorable Cargo Idris, the chieftain of the ADC, who would also tell us what the stand is. The likes of Kwankwaso and Peter Obi has left the ADC at the moment, a political party that we thought was the viable third force. What does it mean for the ADC at the moment? Are we also seeing a lot of what exodus? That's the word journalists have been using recently. Are we seeing a lot of exodus? Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Honorable Cargo.
Thank you, Joy. Pleasure to be here.
Right. Okay. So good to see you right there. But I guess my first question, before I come back to Dr. Deji, that's right here in the Abuja studios, is: are you also leaving? I see that you're clad in the ADC attire. Are you also leaving with Peter Obi and maybe Kwankwaso? I know you left with Atiku. You left the PDP with Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. But I mean, what's going on with the ADC? What do you think the future is for the political party, having had the likes of Peter Obi that came with his own gale of members?
Well, thank you very much. It's actually so unfortunate how Peter Obi and Kwankwaso decided to leave. I see this as just like political amateurs, because this is not a good calculation for the two of them. And I don't think Peter Obi really have the interest of Nigerians, and I don't also think that Kwankwaso have the interest of Nigerians. Kwankwaso comes from the north. He's very much aware of what the north is actually going through. People are dying on a daily basis, hunger, insecurity, and so many things are happening in the north. But despite all these problems, he seems not to care about the north. And Peter Obi, to move out of ADC, I'll put it this way, that this means that he has put the Igbo people about 20 to 30 years backward to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because this is the closest somebody as an Igbo man gets to the presidency, because the only reason they're saying that they wanted to leave is all because they're giving false information that ADC have crisis, the cut crisis and everything. Even NDC, what is there? If you look at the INEC portal, what the NDC have, it clearly says that the national chairman is there based on court order. So who is fooling who among them? And I think Kwankwaso is just playing with Peter Obi. And trust me, as time goes on, you will see Kwankwaso saying that he's going to be the presidential candidate. That's where another problem is going to start. So we'll keep watching, and we have no any problem. We have beat them before in 2023, and we're going to beat them before. If you say you don't want to contest for primaries, if you are afraid of Atiku Abubakar, then it means you're not ready to defeat Tinubu. You have to defeat Atiku Abubakar before you defeat Tinubu. And Atiku Abubakar seems the only candidate who can defeat Tinubu.
Right, that's true, but a lot of people were also very skeptical for Peter Obi, because, you know, when it came to the conversations around the movement, it seemed like he was championed by the likes of Atiku Abubakar. And if he controls largely the political party, I mean, it's not the ideal case, but you know how it often is. It means he will determine whether he himself will become the flag bearer of the party. Do you think he saw the manipulations ahead, and that is why he left, as some people have speculated?
There's no any manipulation. He's just afraid. Peter Obi have never run a primary election. That's what he's only afraid of. He feels like Atiku is going to beat him hands down. Politics is all about contest. You contest, you defeat somebody before you become a winner. Peter Obi is not ready for that. So how can you defeat Tinubu if you're afraid of the primaries? What is there? We have Amechi who's still in the party. Amechi still believes that he can defeat Atiku, which is very much good. That is politics. But Obi and Kwankwaso are very much afraid. So it means that Atiku is the candidate to beat in ADC before you can face Tinubu at the general election, because Tinubu is going to be the only candidate in APC as the way we are saying it. So if you are afraid of Atiku Abubakar in the primaries, you are not telling me that I should not come and trust you that you can defeat Tinubu. How can you defeat Tinubu if you cannot defeat Atiku?
Okay, I think I would like to hear your thoughts on this issue. I mean, he mentioned something about the North suffering so much, and for a northerner to move like that, he did not have the interest of the North at heart. And he also mentioned how Peter Obi, being an Easterner, also has taken the eastern part of the country 30 years backwards. What is your thoughts on that statement?
Well, what he has said, before he even came online, I'd say something similar to that. If for the first time, it will be funny, you can see an opposition party, two opposition parties agreeing on one thing.
Absolutely.
Having to just leave a contest and you want to become the president, you're running from one party to the other, and running from primaries. Like I said, he always looks for the soft party where he won't have much challenges to get to clinch a ticket. And since he has seen Atiku in that party, he became wary. I've even forgotten Amici too is always is there. So he has reminded me that Amici is there. So why not struggle for the ticket? Okay, do you know he would have formed a formidable opposition if they were all together? Now that he's doing this, and like the ADC, like he said, he's pushing their reach and back. Because, for example, in politics, it's all about negotiation. Whether you win or not in the primaries, you negotiate for something. Okay, now that if Atiku wins the ticket, it's okay, now that we're going to work together with you, my force and your force come together, and after you get there, can you permit me to take the next ticket or something? I don't know. It's negotiation, but he seems to always shy away from such.
But do you think he had a chance with the ADC?
Well, I'm not in the ADC.
However, I mean, you are
Yeah. Of course, he would have had a chance because the reality is facts speaks for itself, right? If they say he has, let's give it to him. He has his followers, right? And every party wants to win an election. No party goes into an election to come second. Nobody goes into the election to become the opposition. Most people go to win. Then if you don't win, whatever you get, you hold on to. He had his chance, if you ask me. Just the way. I think he had better chance compared to Amici. So if he has better chance compared to Amici.
He was an inch even closer.
Yes. At the worst. Imagine what will happen if he came as a vice again. Atiku wins the ticket, the primaries, and said, okay, please, can you be my vice? And they come to a round table. It's to go along with, this is like the ADC representative said, this is the closest an Igbo man has been. I don't like to talk about tribe anyway, but I have to at this point. To come to clinching the ticket of the presidency. He had done it twice now. This was really his third chance.
Right.
And that will, even if you ask me, that would have brought about a lot of international interest into what's going on here.
Right.
You get, but this is movement is going to make it look like this guy is not even ready this week.
Okay, so let's go back to Honorable Cargo. I mean, let's also interrogate that conversation people often have of state interference. Like if you read through Peter Obi's speech earlier, I think yesterday evening, state interference, where he talked about credible evidence that political structures are being destabilized externally, or is this an internal mismanagement being reframed, is the question I have for you. We've been hearing opposition talk about the destabilization coming from the APC, the ruling APC. Is this another, do you think that the APC had something to do with this as well, where he was made so uncomfortable that he had to leave?
At a point, I would say Peter Obi is just misleading the people. In politics, it's all about challenge. Politics simply means you challenge. That's politics. Definitely, APC have hand in what is happening in the ADC, but unfortunately for them, what they are doing to the ADC, it's helping even the masses, the people, the Nigerian people, to say, look, this is the party this is the only hope we have. Because if you could remember, before the emergence of the ADC, before the coalition and everything, Nigerians have lost hope because there's nothing to show. APC have destroyed this country to the extent that no more hope in this country.
Okay, that's in your opinion, because we also have a lot of people who swear that this is the best thing that has happened to Nigeria.
It is bitter truth. That's why, Joy, if you look at it, one of the most difficult jobs to have now is to defend APC. Go and try it.
Are you sure?
It is the most difficult job to defend APC so far in Nigeria. Now you can see how people like Radio Omokri have turned to very low position. You can see what somebody Daniel Bola.
You're not addressing the.
I'll go back to that.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is this:
the APC once again that has caused this rift within the party to an extent where someone with such followership, or rather two people with such followership, the Kwankwasiya movement and the Peter Obi obedient movement, have had to also leave the ADC? Are we also pointing fingers at the APC once again?
One of the complaints that Peter Obi and Kwankwaso made was actually about issue with the court case issues. That's one of the major things they have much talking about. The issue of the internal crisis of the party. Let me tell you one thing, Joy. Every party has its own crisis.
Absolutely.
But in ADC, what we have, the way people are projecting it, we don't have much court cases. We have just only 3 court cases, and which is not a very big deal about it. One, the Nafiu Bala cases, then the former ADC presidential candidate, I can't even remember his name, I don't even know who he is. And then the second one for the chairman, for the outgoing chairman, who claimed that they have been thrown out of power, which is a big lie. They are still in charge until the 12th of this month.
When it will be determined.
Absolutely. We have already sent, Bolaji, the MPS, have already sent out the press release just like a day after the convention that each and every new elected member will resume office on the 12th of May of this month. So what they have in court case is it's not even a court case, it's nothing, it's something that we can even trash down very much quickly. And then if you look at it, the bitter truth is this: Obi just want to leave because he know he cannot defeat Amechi and Atiku Abubakar. And then we have Kwankwaso now, who is now, only God knows, because at this point I feel like maybe he's working for Tinubu. Only God knows. Because absolutely,
what do you mean by
absolutely? Because
waiting for Tinubu?
we have seen it
working
for Tinubu. I said, because we have seen so many cases multiple times. If you can remember this, I think he has visited Tinubu about almost 2 to 3 times when Tinubu was in office. Only God knows what the discussion was all about.
He's an elder statesman in Nigeria.
Absolutely, we know. Yeah.
Would you question it?
The same person, the same Kwankwaso.
Can you respond to this? Would you question it if Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, because I expect opposition not to necessarily fight the individual who is a leader. I expect you to also proffer solutions if you have it and you think you are best. Would you question it? If Atiku Abubakar had a meeting with the president, would you also think he's compromised?
At a point, I would say yes. At a different point, I would say no, because you need to get it very much clear.
Okay.
If you look at it, Atiku has so many times sent out via through his X account, which is Twitter, about how Tinubu is taking about his policy and other things,
right.
How he condemned him, and then how he gave him also solutions. That is very much fine. That's a statesman work, which is a very brilliant.
You think ideally should end there?
That's the best he can do for him. Does he have to go and see him?
And on X.
He doesn't have to go and see him.
If you have the,
already sent him the message.
Interest of Nigeria, shouldn't you actually?
How many leaders have you seen Obi giving Tinubu solutions? That's a leader. That's a good thing.
I would say yes. I would say yes. It's still on X. I've also heard Obi criticize this government and also proffer solutions, which is something that makes this democracy super healthy, and that is why Nigeria's democracy is so healthy. So my question is, do you think this movement would fragment the ADC to a level that it will affect the 2027 general elections? Or are you still very confident that with the exit of the likes of Kwankwaso, who has such a huge number of followership in the north, and Peter Obi, it would largely affect the followership and popularity of the ADC?
Have we not done it before? Atiku have beat all these candidates before. And we have Amechi, who has helped as a DG campaign remove a certain incumbent president, 2015. Have you forgotten? Where are these people saying Amechi and Atiku are still in ADC? So if you look at all these calculations, Joy, with or without Obi, or with or without Kwankwaso, we will get it right. And ADC will surely win the presidential election 2027. So the point is, Atiku won the last election. It was rigged. Yes, I said it was rigged.
Well, you don't have evidence for that, especially because this conversation
I was the national.
and it has been trashed.
I was the national team leader of Atiku Youth Wing, and we know what we did. We know what happened. This is Nigeria, and then we are not going to allow that to happen. We won the election. We have records. But we are not I
like where this conversation is going. Is this record that you did not show to the court? Because the Nigerian court will be happy to see these records within the time frame that it had. It didn't seem like you had records that proved
we present
you won.
Everything to the court. But this is Nigeria. One of our biggest mistakes in the last election was not to protect our votes. But this is what we are going to do in this coming election. We will protect our vote at all costs.
How would you do that?
By doing the necessary. We'll protect it when you vote.
I would like to know what will be necessary in ensuring the votes are protected.
When we win the election, you will know.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, so let me get back to the studio here. Okay. Honorable Deji, you heard what Honorable Calvo had to say right there. So, first of all, do you think this exit would fragment the ADC, and would there be a viable opposition come 2027?
Of course, definitely to fragment the ADC. There's no two ways about that. Okay, because I've heard him speak. You're speaking of. You see, the thing about our country, we're always raising people above institutions. But it's unfortunate. Yes, he has spoken confidently about Atiku and the Amechi because they have their followership. In politics, every vote counts and is important. So if that is true, to the extent to which it is, Obi has his followership. Kwankwasia, which is Kwankwaso, has his followership. Imagine how viable the ADC would have been with those people on board. Which the exit is going to affect them, that's the ADC, and of course it's going to affect the opposition generally. But for me, it's a good thing. We're going somewhere.
Okay, so my question here, I just saw something that reminded me of the numbers according to the 2023 general elections. We had Tinubu winning by 36.7%, Atiku 29.9%, Obi 26.1%, Kwankwaso 6.4%. I guess I would conclude today's edition of the show by starting with Honorable Calvo right there. If elections were held right now, would we still record these numbers that we recorded during the 2023 general elections? Because I don't know if it's unfortunate or fortunately, we still have just the same people on the ballot, or rather projectively on the ballot come 2027. So if elections are held right now, do you think that Obi will still garner 26.1%, Atiku will still garner 29.1%? I'm confused asking this because you don't even believe in the outcome of the general elections. You have your numbers. But even with your numbers, do you think he still has what it takes?
Obi will surely not get that vote. And likewise,
he will no longer get that vote.
He won't get that vote again. And likewise, got to Kwankwaso. If you could remember, I'll start with the Kwankwasia movement. Okay. The Kwankwasia movement, the last election, were kind of saying that they rather waste their votes than to vote for anybody. They would rather put it. What they mean by waste was to vote Kwankwaso because they know he's not going to win. So now, after the hardship from the last election till dates now,
right,
people of Kano, people of this, most of the people from the, let me put it from the North Central, Northwest, the suffering, the insecurity, they have seen it and they understand their mistake. And now it is about somebody that can help get APC out of government, somebody that can change, somebody that can bring an ease to their life or their normal day-to-day life activities. And then goes something about Peter Obi. If you look at the North Central now, he doesn't have that grip anymore. Places like Nasarawa, Benue, Plateau, Kwara, look at what's happening.
What is happening?
So many things.
I mean,
let me break it down to you so that you understand.
Okay.
The people of Plateau, Benue, you can look at what is happening based on the insecurity. Okay. They are at a point now saying that anything but Tinubu. And they understand. I'm coming there. And then now, with the hope that if Peter Obi could have been remaining ADC, then there will be a hope.
Oh, they specifically wanted ADC?
Absolutely.
Why is
Let me tell you, Joy. Let me tell you one thing, Joy. Even you yourself, Joy, now.
Okay.
if they bring you as a presidential candidate in ADC, you will become the next president of Nigeria.
Wow. I should go think of getting a ticket.
Absolutely.
So what makes ADC
that is what,
so, let me understand.
Because the people of Nigeria have aligned with the ADC.
Okay.
And then you look at what is happening again. We now have the national chairman of the APC from the North Central. And then we have
the APC?
Absolutely.
From the
so
North
it's going
Central.
to break so many things.
Okay.
It's not going to get that number anymore. Maybe more likely, even if they put on together with the Kwankwaso and Peter Obi, that's if they manage to get to the ballots. Because what we are seeing now, more likely there will be they may even likely break even between Peter Obi and Kwankwaso. Because Kwankwaso may likely say, oh, I am the most qualified. I have to be the president. You have to be the vice president, which is where the problem will now start. So
I thought there was an agreement of
there was no any agreement because we are saying on the social media, Kwankwaso have even started already projecting it. Saying Kwankwaso, yes, Kwankwaso is a two-time governor, he's a minister, he's a former senator. So many records they are putting that, okay, Obi was just a governor, and just the best thing for him to be is let him be his Kwankwaso year vice. Right. We are watching them, and even if they come together, I think we will likely see maybe 3-4 million votes. At most
3-4 million votes.
Absolutely.
We're running out of time. Let me get Deji. I mean, I don't know where to start with all he has said, but if you have to comment on all he has said.
Well, for me, if one to analyze a coming election, like you asked the question, if there is an election right now, what is likely going to turn out? We seem to be forgetting there's a PDP in the middle of all of this. PDP is not completely dead. I think PDP still have governor. How many governors does ADC have? How many governors does NDC have? And from my own analysis, PDP is still going to get some more governors compared to what they have right now. That said, if we want to, I don't know who PDP will bring in for their president, but if we want to look at this very well, I can assure you, going by what's on ground, regardless of whatever they're saying, APC will come first. ADC, if without PDP, will come second.
Would APC be coming first because of manipulation? Because one of the things he said was that manipulations is the reason why the elections were given to the president, that the PDP at the time. In fact, not even the PDP. Atiku won the elections.
Let me clear that. Yes, sir. Let me clear that. Why APC will come? See, in politics is about numbers, right?
Absolutely.
Numbers of people, number of coverage, numbers of location. The question is, what is the coverage of ADC in Nigeria? What is the coverage of NDC in Nigeria? Do they have representation? Do they have their people in different states?
He talked about how disillusioned people are at the moment by the APC administration, economically, security-wise. He mentioned all of that.
Okay, now
affect it, irrespective of the structure of the APC at the moment.
Okay. He also spoke about what was that? Defending the votes.
Right.
You don't have representative who will defend your votes.
Okay. Having said that, we've come to the end of today's edition of the show. It's been wonderful having these gentlemen discuss the movement and the political landscape ahead of 2027. We will definitely bring them back. I don't think we did justice to the conversation. But until we come back next time, this is Razep Africa. Have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.